Hello again. Let's talk about some social structures in place in 1492. Important to think that class was the overriding issue in a lot of social situations at that time. Class isn't handled the same way today, over 500 years later, as it was then. So it helps to set the stage for 1492 when we talk about class. Many countries and around the world, many places at that time had a caste system or a class system. Class tend to rule everything. Well, let's picture Europe, where you've got the noble class, the merchant class. You've got serfs, which are a little better than slaves, as I'd mentioned. Everything was pretty well ruled by the class system. People didn't dream about going out of their class. They didn't picture that's even something that you could do. You just grew up in a certain class, and that's the way things were. Now, as an example how this impacted on the cultures, so of the different races and sub-races and cultures and subcultures of the world who were meeting each other, the people in the lower classes of those civilizations would tend to automatically associate with the lower classes of the other civilization, and the same with the nobility. So it was a common practice for the nobles and the nobility, when meeting another culture, to marry into that culture, to have their sons and daughters marrying the nobility from the other culture. And it wasn't that they didn't notice race. Race wasn't on their radar the way it is today. Everything was ruled by class. Now, I believe today's racial distinctions that we have really emanate from this situation with class in the past. We tend to think of everything to do with race and racism, and that's in the news all the time on a daily basis. But I think that grew out of the fact that the class situation was so pronounced in almost all places around the world, in many, many places around the world. And over time, as people of a certain class became associated in people's minds with a certain type of echelons of society and where they stood, and this very slowly over time, created the situation that we have today, where class became race. The person of a certain race became associated with a certain class, until we wind up with the situation that we have today, where everything is seen through that racial lens rather than through the class lens. Okay, see you next time.